This episode will be completely taken out of context. Welcome to the Fact Check This podcast. Alright, Fact Check This podcast, episode 55, and hopefully a handful of people got a chance to check out the weekend edition where my son and Sean and I took a trip to Birmingham, Alabama, and went to a Mises Institute meetup and got to hear Tho Bishop and Buck Johnson and several other people talk and meet some people. Jeff Deist gave a great speech. Thomas De Lorenzo gave a really good speech at the end. Like, it was really, really good. It was a very fun event. You got to meet a lot of people, have a lot of fun. And then on the drive home, Sean and I spent some time talking about different political figures and what my opinions of said political figures were. It was pointed out to me by a friend that I was actually wrong on Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She was not the first female Supreme Court justice. That was Sandra Day O'Connor, which I knew that, but I was driving and didn't feel like arguing with a 12-year-old when he told me that RBG was the first. And so I just went with it, and we did the episode. It didn't change the rest of the what I had to say about her. So, but moving on, I'm coming fresh off a 24-hour Facebook ban, so I didn't get to post like any of this stuff that I wanted to yesterday, because fucker Burke. And so here we are. So let's talk about the one that I posted right off the bat this morning, like as soon as I got out of Facebook jail, because this one is exceptionally heinous, and it needs to be brought into the limelight for real. Like, I don't think everybody who I asked, have you heard about this, had not. And the fact that nobody knows this is going on, Thousands evacuated on Caribbean island amid threat of imminent volcanic eruption. The island of St. Vincent is in threat of imminent volcanic eruption, and not just that. Like, there is it has erupted. So the island is under evacuation, and they're getting people out. They have these red zones where it's considered exceptionally dangerous. About 16,000 people have been ordered to evacuate the island, and they're bringing in cruise ships to evacuate the people off of the island. Except people on Caribbean island, where a volcano went off, are being evacuated on cruise ships, but not without a COVID-19 vaccination. So they are deliberately leaving people behind because they haven't been vaccinated for COVID. And this is why I said this is exceptionally heinous. I'm not going to read all of these articles because most of these just talk about the actual, like, what's going on the island. And that's not the damage and the destruction and everything that's being caused. Like, that is a terrible thing. But the fact that they won't let these people off the island unless they have a vaccine from COVID-19, and it's not like these are like wealthy parts of the world. It's not like these islands are, getting sent truckloads of vaccines. I mean, granted, it's not a lot of people, but still, they're going to leave people behind who haven't been vaccinated. And for everybody that talks about, they're not forcing you to get a vaccine, nobody's holding a gun to your head to make you do this, and all of that stuff, yet. They're not forcing us yet. They're not holding a gun to our head yet. What they will do is shit like this, where they will make it impossible for you to actually have a life unless you succumb to this and get the vaccine. No vaccine? You can't go in certain stores. No vaccine? You can't travel to certain places. No vaccine? You won't be allowed to go to your regular doctor. You won't be allowed to do whatever. It will start with these restrictions that if you haven't had the vaccine, then you aren't allowed to do these things. But ultimately, it ends in, you get the vaccine or we fucking kill you. No vaccine, you don't get evacuated off of the island. And it gets to the argument of private business and all of that stuff. Like for the mask mandates and the vaccine passports and everything, and there are people that are libertarians especially who defend this shit as, oh well, it's a private business, they can make that decision if they want to. We learned early on in COVID who the private businesses are and who the ones that are deeply embedded with the government are. They went about creating all of these lockdown restrictions and allowances and who could be open, who had to shut down. And all of the ones that are the major corporations that are tied heavily into the stock market, which means they're tied heavily into the Federal Reserve, which means they are deeply embedded into the government. They all rolled out with all of their rules and restrictions to mirror everything that the government was saying had to be done. Making masks a part of the dress code for employees. Making a mask a requirement for people to enter the store to shop. Enforcing occupancy limits in stores. And we're talking Walmarts and Lowe's and massive sprawling stores having these occupancy limits and closing off entire sections of the stores that were deemed non-essential, while small actual private businesses were forced to close, not even given the option. They had to file for allowances and petition that what their business provided should be deemed essential so that they could stay open, and then still getting denied to be able to stay open because other places were already doing those things. The ones who were in the pockets of the government, they were already doing it, so there was no reason for these small private businesses to stay open. So fuck you, you just have to lose your entire livelihood. We learned early on, none of this is voluntary. And if you still cling to that, you have missed everything that's gone on for the past year. This will all be forced. It will all be mandated. And you're not going to have an option. They're going to root you up out of civilized society unless you agree to do whatever they say from now until forever. Because this is just the tip of the iceberg. Like, all of this stuff is just their way of guaranteeing that whatever has been dictated is necessary and right and good by our benevolent overlords in government. That's what's going to happen. And you don't get the option to not do it. They will make you do it, or they will remove you from society. I'm waiting for the time to come when our jobs start to require a vaccine to work. Because it's coming. Like, I work for some of those big, some of those big publicly traded companies. My wife works for one of those big publicly traded companies. It's coming. It's only a matter of time. I expect in the next 6 months, it will be, unless you have a vaccine, you cannot work here. And that'll be the day that I tell everybody, go fuck yourself and walk out the door. Because I won't do it. I don't give a good goddamn. I will not do it. I will stop. I will quit everything before I do that. I don't care. This is the hill that I die on. And I don't care. I'm not concerned about this being a hill that I actually die on, because we've got the garden going. We're getting a goat. I come from a family that has a farm. Worst comes to worst, I can live off the land and do whatever I need to take care of myself and my family. Like, I don't have concerns about it. But there are going to be a lot of people who won't have that option, that don't have the ability to grow their own food, that don't have the ability to run off into the country out in the middle of nowhere and somewhere in Kentucky and just drop off the grid. This type of stuff is inherently targeted at the lowest class of population to force them into effective slavery. You get our vaccine. You go work at our jobs. You do this. You do that. You don't have a choice. We have got, I know, I feel like a fucking broken record because I've been saying it for months now, but we've reached this point where we've got to fucking stand up and fight these bastards. The thing that got me a 24-hour Facebook ban is because I posted the picture of the, what is it they call it? The hand of God or hand of death or whatever. It's they put warm water in two latex gloves and wrap it around people in these terminal wards' hands so that to simulate the feel of someone holding their hand as they die, because they are being isolated and forced to die alone and miserable. And it infuriates me. It infuriates me. And I don't disagree with Facebook's assessment that my post was inciting violence, because if you didn't see that picture, if you don't read those stories and feel roused to violence, feel roused to the point that you agree that we have got to go out and actively start taking these motherfuckers on and putting an end to this by any means necessary, you are a heartless piece of shit. And I don't want you in my life, because you are not advancing us in the right direction as a people. I got real fired up there, and I didn't necessarily mean to, but at the same time, God, it felt good. If you can look at that and not feel as fired up as I am, you might be heartless. If you can look at a story about them abandoning people on an island with an active volcano going off because they don't have a fucking COVID vaccine, you are a heartless piece of shit, and I don't want you in my life. And staying on topics that have got me pissed off today, back in December, I want to make sure I get this right. It was a military officer in Virginia who was pulled over during a traffic stop, and it was discovered before they even approached the vehicle that the guy was not the person that they were looking for. Nonetheless, they still went up on his vehicle with guns drawn, yelling at this guy. He very clearly has both hands out the window and is telling them that he is afraid for his life because of the way they're behaving. And their response to his fear is, "You should be scared." No. People should never be scared of a police officer. The police are here supposedly to protect and serve, not to accost and assault an innocent man who they already knew was not the person they were looking for. Already knew. They found out before they got out of the car that he was not who they were looking for. And they still go up yelling, guns drawn, pepper spray this guy in the face, drag him out of his car, assault him, cuss at him, yell at him, scream at him, put him in handcuffs, drag him to the ground, And it's 4 months later. It's 4 months later. And one of the officers was just now fired for the incident. Every motherfucker involved in this should be in jail. That is outright assault. They should have been fired the very next day. I mean, it's all body cam footage. Everything in this is body cam footage. It was known that they did this. They should have been fired the very next day, and they should have been in jail within the week. So now he's going to sue, or he is suing, and like, there's no way he can't win this. Like, it is beyond obvious that they had absolutely no reason to do this. I'll post some links to it on the show notes page. Like, if you haven't seen these videos, if you haven't seen what happened with this, oh my god. And see, this is the problem that I have, because I've posted some pretty anti-police things over the last week and a half, and I've gotten a lot of pushback on it, and that's fine. I get it. I get it. People think that the police are here to protect and serve, and I don't disagree that they have a job that is hard and dangerous and what have you. I don't disagree with any of that. The problem is they have been given too much authority and too much power with absolutely no accountability. I mean, it's I feel kind of like a dumbass for saying it, but it came from Spider-Man. That Uncle Ben says, with great power comes great responsibility. And we have given police officers all of this power and all of this authority to just absolutely destroy people's lives and assault people. And they have no responsibility, no accountability. They can do whatever the fuck they want. And odds are they won't even get fired, much less have charges pressed against them. This lawsuit, the guy's suing for $1 million in damages. And good for him. I hope he gets every fucking penny of it. I hope he gets more. But the problem is, they're not taking that money out of these piece of shit's pension. The officers that did this won't pay a fucking dime. It will come out of tax dollars. So the community will pay for the malfeasance of these police officers. But that should piss you off. That should piss you off. Because they are not responsible for any fucking thing they do. And it's all they're just doing their job, or it's a dangerous job, or blah, blah, fucking blah. Just doing their job may not hurt you right now. Just obey the law. Just don't do anything against the law. You won't have a problem. Comply. Don't resist. The guy in this video wasn't doing anything. He wasn't doing anything at all. He was being agreeable. He was talking to them. He was trying to find out what the situation was. And they pepper sprayed him in his fucking face and drug him out of the car. Fuck these pigs. They are horrible pieces of shit. And I've said it, and a buddy of mine disagreed with me, and I don't care. I don't give a goddamn if you've known them for life. If they wear that fucking uniform, if they put that badge on every day, and they go out there, I consider them just as likely to do this to me as they are to do it to a criminal. Because at some point, just doing the job is going to include doing whatever the government says do. And like I talked about in the first part, I'm not getting a vaccine. I'm not doing this shit. And eventually that'll be the thing that they're just doing their job on. Or something less than that. Joe Biden and his Second Amendment executive orders or gun control orders or what the fuck ever you want to call it. Eventually that's going to be part of just doing the job. Is enforcing that bullshit. And when push comes to shove, because everybody says, oh, I know all these guys. I know these police officers. They would never do that. That wouldn't happen. They have a higher standard than that. They believe in the community and blah, 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 and whatever. I would be willing to bet less than 5% of all police officers would actually quit, would actually refuse to enforce these orders, would actually stand on those supposed principles and values that everybody thinks they have. Because at the end of the day, that's the job. And they've been brainwashed to do the fucking job. And whatever the job entails, that's what they're going to do. They've found that this job gives them power and authority over other people. And as long as they do the job, they get to hold on to that. They get to keep being that guy, that woman. And they're not going to let go of that. So if the job changes to something that it's the boiling frog thing, how many of these guys probably think that a lot of the laws that they're forced to enforce are bullshit and really don't matter? I wouldn't doubt that a bunch of them think that. But they still do it. On the minor shit that has no consequence. They still fucking do it. So what makes you think for the big stuff, where if they don't do it, there will be severe consequence? What makes you think they're going to actually stand on any level of principle and say, no, this is the line that I can't cross? They don't have a line they can't cross. They have found what makes them important. And they're not going to let go of that. And if it means coming to kick down your door and take your guns, then they're going to do it. If it means rounding us up and hauling us away to internment camps because we refuse to get vaccinated, they're going to do it. It doesn't fucking matter what you think they wouldn't do. They're going to do it because they're told to. A lot of these guys are ex-military, and they go through a pretty stringent brainwashing process in that training. And at the end of the day, a whole bunch of those come out of that still fucking brainwashed. And when they're told, go do it, they go and they fucking do it. You should be scared of that. You should reconsider how much value you place in those people. And you should really be making a plan for how you're going to stand up and defend yourself when they come for you. Because that's what's going to happen. Eventually, they will come for you. And if they're not coming for you, I'm afraid that means you're not standing up for any of those values or principles that you claim to believe in. And that's a fucking shame. Hope everybody has a good week. Good couple days. I'll be back on Wednesday to talk about all of the crazy Biden shit that's been going on over the past couple weeks or months. I was going to do that today, but the volcano and then this story, they felt a lot more important. Plus, they got me real good and pissed off, so needed to capture some of that. In the meantime, have a good one. I'll catch you Wednesday.